Hey guys.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Greetings. This Kanak and that's Funky, and welcome to the VoiceIt show. Hope you guys are having a great time, and it's so cool to see so many people tuning in from different parts of the world. Hi, Anders, and I see Ray over there. So cool to see you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and to see you here. And if you're joining us, and if you're new to our channel, first of all, thank you for tuning in, and we wholeheartedly welcome you. And you can also subscribe to our channel if at all I am pointing in the right direction after
There's
all
somewhere.
these years. Somewhere in the corner, you might see a button and you want to click it. So, thank you so much for tuning in. And first of all, we want to give a huge shout out to our patrons for supporting us. Funky.
Exactly. A special shout out goes to Anders Lindholm, Adam Gorak, Shelley O'Neill, Chris Vickery, and of course Laurie Sandoval. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. And moving on to our special guest.
Yeah.
Should we
So
introduce?
of
Let's go ahead,
course,
Funky.
our special guest of today is described as the most successful musician under 30 by Forbes India. At a tender age, somewhere in the world, when regular kids were doing their school homework, at the same age, Mohini Dey was recording bass parts for Mr. A.R. Rahman. She has worked professionally in the music industry for over 16 years. She's also the member of the biggest rock band in Japan called Bees.
Yeah, and Mohini has played on over 60 movies and albums worldwide. She has worked with international artists Ustad Zakir Hussain, Steve Vai, Guthrie Govan, Mike Stern, Simon Phillips, Quincy Jones, Stanley Clarke, Louiz Banks, Ranjit Barot, just to name a few. And in addition to that list, Mohini has worked with Indian artists like Salim-Sulaiman, Hariharan ji, Arijit Singh, Amit Trivedi, Benny Dayal, Shreya Ghoshal, and many more. She has featured in various prestigious magazines like Rolling Stones India, Forbes India, Telegraph, Bassist, etc. Mohini Dey's TV work includes multiple seasons of both Coke Studio and MTV Unplugged. She also has an amazing podcast called What a Mellophile Wants that encompasses a heart to heart with the giants of the music industry.
Exactly, and moreover, Mahini is always busy working. She has recently finished recording for Jan Rivera and has a music video releasing and an album too, featuring some cool musicians. We are super delighted that she has taken out time to chat with us today. It's a real honor to welcome on the Voice show Mistress Mohini Dey-Hartsuch.
Hi,
Welcome.
Hello, Moini. Such a pleasure. Welcome to the Voice It Show. Thank you for joining
thank you
us
for
today.
having me.
How do you feel and how's it going? What's happening?
Everything's good. Life is good. It's already been 1 year since I've been married. Married life is great. Been traveling recently a lot and a lot of recording sessions on the fly. And yeah, I think
Cool.
in the past few years I've become more of a recording artist than touring musician.
Yeah,
Right,
Also, not
right,
to
right.
forget, everybody was working from home also. So,
true.
True, true. And first of all, we really enjoyed the Crack Drill Jam video that you guys put out last week. And it's truly kick ass. You guys are, you guys play really awesome. And Mark and Gino Banks. And do you guys jam really often? And how does it feel to be surrounded by guys who are just as crazy about music and creative as you are?
hmm. Yeah, I mean, back in the days we used to. Now I sound like a 70-year-old back in the days, but because in my head I am old. But when I started out in the music industry, when I was 9, I was playing a lot. I would jam a lot. I was just, playing with different set of musicians, different set of bands. Uh, it's good to have experience in different types of lineups because you get exposed and you expose yourself to different types of environments, and in result you gain a lot of knowledge. Um, so yeah, in those
True.
days I used to jam a lot, but over the years, because you yourself become so busy doing your own thing, it becomes tougher, it becomes more difficult to hang with people, and it becomes more difficult to plan things. So what we've been doing lately is that we just came, I mean, I and my husband Mark, we just came back from Los Angeles into Mumbai, and we bought this house. So we're moving.
Yeah.
And so the house stuff is going. We're micromanaging a lot of things, but I have my recording sessions. He has his recording sessions. He has some gigs lined up, and I have some gigs lined up. So all that is happening. So we decided, Mark had this idea of just going into Gino's Den and doing this duo project with Gino. I was not
Hmm.
in the picture, but he said, hey, I've made these songs over the years, and I just made a couple in the past few weeks, and I have planned to just go to Gino's Den and just record these songs, maybe one or two a day. I was like, oh, that's a cool
Cool.
idea. I would love to join in. And he's like, yeah, I had this idea in my mind, but the recording kind of becomes difficult. It's a small room, just like my studio, when you want to record like 3 or 4 musicians in one room like
Yeah.
this. You If you don't have like the right head preamp for the in-ears, then every musician cannot get an individual mix. So we kind of had to
Right.
share one overall universal mix. So if I'm
True.
hearing the bass loud, everybody else is going to hear the bass loud. So everybody
True.
shared a universal mix, and we recorded those songs. So we finished like 2 or 3 songs, I think. We're gonna do the third one day after tomorrow, I think. So what we do is we just
Wow.
go into the studio. Mark plays the song. We learn the song together. We learn the song in an hour. We do the first take. If it's not good, we chuck it. We still keep the take just for listening purposes. We listen to it and like, oh, we could do better in this section. And then we go for the second take, and that's the best take. So we keep that. So we're doing video and audio at the same time. So we go in, we learn the song. It's more like a learning session for all the three of us, and putting
Right.
ourselves on the spot and challenging ourselves on the spot to record 2 or 3 songs a day sometimes, so we
True.
have just started this project as a trio, and we are continuing to do this, and hopefully we'll have like 10 or 11 songs, and then we can tour with this trio. That's the plan.
Oh wow, that's
Wow.
yeah,
That sounds
In the
really
midst of
fantastic.
everything, in the midst of
yeah.
everything, that we're already
Exactly.
doing, like it was not enough. But
Mhm.
it's a cool idea Mark had, and I squeezed myself into it. Because it was a very experimental project, and nobody's doing this, and Mark being such an asset to India, nobody plays the horn like he
True.
does. So
Yeah.
nobody plays the sax
Oh
like he
yeah.
does, and he does horn arrangements like nobody does, and I adore and get inspired the way he writes songs. And he every time he is in my studio when I'm recording for clients or making songs or producing for some artists, he will pick up some things, and vice versa. When I'm in
Right.
his studio, I'll pick up some things, and it's like, oh, that's cool the way you do that. So it's an exchange of ideas and learning experiences.
True. He plays saxy. I mean, I'm sorry. He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Indeed. And cool sound you guys have. Truly amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we wish you
That's
the best of
fantastic.
luck regarding that project. And
Indeed.
so I want to spiral down from there to your childhood because kids like Gino Banks and you've had such a phenomenal childhood, have seen success like no other kids. So you grew up in a musical family. Your dad himself is a bass player. Well, could
Mhm.
you describe your childhood? How did your journey begin?
I think by now everybody knows my story, but just to uh, sum it up in a short passage. I started learning the bass when I was 3 years old. My dad was recording for a lot of artists and recording for a lot of movies and jingles, and he would hold my hand and he would take me into studios so that I could hear him play the bass. So I was always hanging out in these studios and seeing him record for different artists, and he would always ask me to play something in front of his friends. Yeah, that's my mom and that's my dad. I don't know, I'm probably five there or something, and my sister is like three there. So cute. Um, but yeah, we didn't have a lot of money back then, but my dad worked really, really hard and provided for the family and made sure that I and my sister studied in the biggest school in our ward. And we would take our studies very seriously. We had a very strict lifestyle. My parents never encouraged us to have friends or to go to movies or hang out. We had a very, very tight schedule, waking up 5:30 a.m. in the morning, school hours till 12 p.m., and then coming back home, taking a shower, have your lunch, and then, my private tutor would come and teach me for like 3 hours or so. Then after she leaves, I would do her homework, and then not to forget, school homework is separate. So it's like going to two schools. But
Oh.
I was very fortunate to have a private tutor come to my house and teach me. So yeah, and then after I finished my homework, I would do my music practice, have my dinner, and then go back to practicing music. The nights when my dad would not be present, he would, whenever he would come back at whenever time in night at night time, he would come back home. He would wake me up and he would give me my lesson. So I've never missed a lesson. He would always make sure he would give me my lesson, and if some days are missed, then he would always ask me to listen to music and go to sleep. So I would always have my Walkman on. In those days you would have these CD players and you can plug your in ears and you can hear.
Right.
So I would have a CD player. It was called Walkman in those days. So I would have
Yeah.
that. And we would have DVD players, and he would play all these jazz records and fusion records, and he would play me Aldi Miola, he would play me Michael Mandarin, Abraham Laboriel, and a lot of bands like Chikoria, the
Wow.
Electric Band, and Weather Report, and Johnny Mitchell, like a array of just incredible musicians. And seeing their musicianship really fascinated me, and I developed the interest for music much later, though.
Hmm.
I was always creative, and I was always playing with colors and paint brushes, and cutting up mom's saris and making outfits and stuff. I always was very, very creative and wanted to do something in the art field, creative field. So that was always there with me. But music, I think the interest came much later. It came when I started enjoying the attention from people, when I started realizing people loved hearing me play, people loved watching me play, and I really enjoyed the spotlight. And that's when I started
Right.
really getting into music and making myself better. And the more musicians I played with, um, the better I got. And like I said, playing in different types of setups and lineups, and playing in the Carnatic world, playing in the Hindustani world, playing in the jazz circuit, playing in clubs, all these different types of setups really, really made me realize what are the um, corners I need to work on. And I would come back home, sometimes even
Mm.
record those. So I was learning in the process of playing
Mm-hmm.
with these musicians. To them, I was incredible. But for me personally, I knew what I needed to do, and I
Yeah.
knew what are the boxes I need to step on and make myself even better. When I would hear musicians like Zakir ji play, Sridhar Parthasarthi play, Selva Ganesh play, so many other mridangam players, kanjira players, Morsing players.
Yeah.
I loved the percussive aspect of those instruments, and I wanted to sound like them. So I developed technique to sound like them on the bass. I would construct exercises so I could be better not only in the percussive element of the technical subject on my bass, but also be better at harmony, reading and everything. So simultaneously, a lot of things were happening with my school. So I really had no time to play with kids,
Yeah.
maybe like Saturday,
Yeah.
maybe like Sunday,
Hmm.
once in
Yeah.
like 4 weeks. Um,
Right.
and another thing was that in my building that I used to live in, when I used to live with my parents, I moved out when I was 17. I got my own place, and I
Mm-hmm.
was, I just needed my private space and was doing my own thing. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to take care of myself. I wanted to do everything myself. I think
Yeah.
every kid goes
Right.
through that phase when they're like, Mom, I want to get out of the house. I don't want to live here
Right.
anymore.
Right.
So that was my phase. But when I was living with my parents in that building, and whenever they would allow me to go out and play with the kids, um, the thing was that my friends group had only boys. There were no girls in the building for
Oh,
some
yeah.
reason. There was one girl
Hmm.
who used to be my best friend, and then she moved out or something, and then we just lost touch. So the people that I would play cricket and football with, I ended up playing boys games because they're boys. So I was
True.
playing cricket and football with them. And I think I always had that little bit of that tomboy nature from the very start. And then there was a phase where it was like, I like eyelashes. I want to play with makeup. I want to play with, clothes, and I want to dress up sexy. I love this. And then came a point it was like a mix of everything. So I think
Mhm.
we're
I
all
heard you.
growing.
I heard you like bunnies as well.
Oh, I love bunnies, and I love those teacup pigs, man. Those teacup pigs
Yeah.
are the cutest thing in the world. Lately, I have an obsession over teacup pigs. Yeah, I told Mark, babe, I want a teacup pig. And he was like, babe, we're always traveling. Who would keep our teacup pig?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to have dogs, but I had one was a rescue that I had rescued, and she found a home, luckily. So she has been taken already, and the one that was mine, which was a chow chow, she has been taken by my parents. Yeah, those are those little babies of mine. So the chow is still with my mom, and my
Mhm.
mom has kidnapped
Ah,
her. She
cool.
won't return my dog back. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, good, funky. You wanna
So
ask?
I wanted to ask you what made you choose bass specifically, because as much as I know, not many Indian women choose to play bass, but did you actually choose to play bass, or did you have to because your parents were strict and all that?
So my dad always had plans of having kids, two kids always, and he wanted them, either it's a girl or a guy, a girl or a boy. He wanted the kids to play some instrument. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, he wanted one to play the bass and the other one to play the drums. So for the longest time, my sister was learning to play the drums, and I was learning to play the bass. But I never enjoyed it. It was forced at first. It
Mm-hmm.
was I was terrified every time he would give me a lesson, and he would make me practice, and he'd be like, no, you have to do this right, you have to do this right. I'm like, oh, like 2 hours of just torture, but every day. And I got better, everything was good. But like I said, I only developed interest around the age of 10, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
when I started getting attention. What made me choose the bass? I did not choose the bass because bass was the only instrument lying in the house and hanging on the walls. It just happened. So if my dad was a drummer, probably I would have been a drummer
Yeah.
because of dad's plans.
Yeah.
His plan worked out, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we see.
Yeah. um
Kind of the same stories in Indian houses, probably because my dad is a guitarist. I became a
mm,
guitarist.
that's
So,
great. Yeah,
same stories.
my ideology is that you should not force anyone to do anything, make it more fun, obviously.
Yeah.
But
That's
again, they
true.
were first time parents. Parents also make mistakes, and like just like how we make mistakes, and it's totally fine. Could they have done it in a different way? Yes, they could have. but they did their best, and it turned out good. I turned
Oh
out to
yeah.
be a musician, but I could have been a fashion designer. There
Mm-hmm.
was a time after my 12th board exams, I was offered three golden opportunities, and all of the three were incredible, which was I got selected in the best fashion college I had applied for. I was getting a
Wow.
scholarship from them, and I was also getting a scholarship from Berklee College of Music in Boston, full
Oh
scholarship.
yeah.
Wow.
And I got a
Yeah.
call to be a part of A.R. Rahman's band. So all of the three opportunities were great, and I was confused what to
True.
do, because fashion was always behind my mind, and music was not something I enjoyed doing, but started to enjoy at that same time.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
that's a tough decision. And then I have this full scholarship from Berklee College of Music, which is like, so hard to get for people.
True.
So yeah, so I think looking at what I am today and all the things that I have today, I think everything worked out for the best. I chose to be in AR's band, and that opened me a lot of doors. So I'm very, very grateful to AR, and I'm very grateful to Ranjit uncle, who saw my talent, and him being my dad's friend, he got to meet me because of my dad. When my dad took me to Ranjit uncle's studio, he saw and heard my playing, and he was very surprised, and he took me under his wings, and I would go there almost every other week and just play with him. Got so much better
Right.
just playing with him. My time got better so much playing with him, and then he would put me in different bands so that I could expose myself to
Mm-hmm.
different types of music. And yeah, so Ranjit uncle plays a huge role. He's just like my second father. He plays a huge role in my life.
Yeah.
And playing in AR's band, like I said, opened me a lot of doors. After I started playing with AR and started playing in his band, I've been a part of AR's band for the past 8.5 years, and
Wow.
starting with Coke Studio for MTV
Mhm.
channel. That was my
Yeah.
first TV work for him, but I had done a recording session unknowingly for AR before this Coke Studio session, which I had
True.
not known about at that time, but got to know much later that it was AR's song that I recorded for, which was in Lekar Hum Divana Dil movie. And the song was called Two Shining. So that was the first song I had worked on.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then this Coke Studio thing happened, and then just the rest of the story with AR is just has been it's been an adventure. I've worked for his
True.
private projects, I've worked for his movies, some of his movies. I've also worked for all his live shows. And then I think
Yeah.
last year I started to prioritize some other things, because there's always a learning curve, and then when you get to a point in your life when you realize, okay, there are other things that you want to do also, you know
Right.
um
Right.
so then I started just going out and traveling more, and people wanted to play with me. There were a lot of calls that I was getting, and I was turning them down because I was playing with AR. But it was
Yeah.
time for
Right.
me to take up those opportunities, and I always wanted to be my own musician. I always wanted to have my own band, and I always wanted to do my own music and do festival shows. And I'm so
True.
grateful and fortunate that I am my own musician today, and I am able to tour with my band and do these big shows and close festivals and do my own stuff. But
True.
yeah, I mean, all thanks to the whole journey that I've had. It wouldn't have been possible without playing with all these musicians and all the names that you took in the start.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
without those opportunities, I wouldn't have been me today. um, but yeah,
Right.
there are
Right.
decisions, and there are decisions that you have to there are tough decisions that you have to make sometimes, and that really can change your future. um
Yeah. Indeed. There's.
yeah,
You also have to listen to your intuition, I guess.
absolutely, big time.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you speak of working with legend like Mr. A.R. Rahman, I want to know what is it that you guys talk about when it comes to music making, and First of all, he's a very soft-spoken person. So,
Hmm.
what makes him talk? Like, what gets him talking, and what is it that you guys talk about in general, or when it comes to music making? What is your process?
When I started working with AR, I was very similar to AR's personality. Now I talk a lot.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. Okay.
when I started playing with AR, I was very much like him. I would not talk much at all. I would do all the
Right.
talking through my playing. I remember this one time when we were working for a Cook Studio session, and there was this song called Zaria. And I
Zaria.
don't know if you have heard the song, but if you have, you will hear this part of bass, which goes like little bass solo kind of intro thing that happens
Right.
before
Read the
before
ha.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Chorus.
section was never there because we were making music in this one room in Whistling Woods, planning and arranging all these songs like Nanye and Zaria and Jagao Mirades with Sivamani in the room, Keba, Prasanna, all incredible
Yeah.
musicians that I was working with for the first time. But remember, these musicians have worked with AR for a long time before that.
Oh yeah.
I was the
Oh
only
yeah.
one who was new to that,
Hmm.
to that setup that AR wanted. I remember when he walked in to the room and he came to me and he said, I was going to get Tal Wilkenfield for this episode, but when I heard you're playing, I only wanted you. And that was a big compliment
Ah.
for me. And
Indeed.
being what I was only 16 that time, I think. Hearing
Yeah.
that from AR, it was like, that's really nice. That was very nice of him to say that, and it made me happy, it made me smile. um
Yeah.
but like I said, I wouldn't talk much, so I was kind of like him in those days, because I didn't want to be misunderstood, or I didn't want to give the
Right.
impression of being overconfident because, hey, you're 16 and you talk too much. you know uh, and of course, it's a respect thing. There's Sivamani, Prasanna, Keba, all of these guys, they're all very, very respectable
Giants.
musicians, and yeah,
Oh
great
yeah.
musicians, and have worked with AR and so many others. So me going into that space, I have to be very disrespectful and not say anything that I regret later. Even if it's
Right.
just musical something like, hey, we could do this. But if I say, hey, we could do this, it's like, huh, still the tone matters. There are a lot of things that
Yeah.
gets counted because you are being met for the very first time. Your personality
Oh
matters,
yeah.
your confidence matters, everything matters. And I was very shy
Right.
at that age. I was very, very shy. So anyway,
True.
so talking about Zaria, when we were arranging that song from
Yeah.
scratch, AR had some ideas, and then I remember Prasanna had some
Hmm.
ideas, and they were just exchanging those ideas. And there was this one
Hmm.
point where everybody just, stopped and they didn't know what to do there. And me
Hmm.
being shy, I didn't know how to say, so I just started playing that part. And AR heard that, and he said, "Let's do that." So he understood
Ah.
that I wanted to talk, but because I'm shy, I cannot really say anything. So I'm just going to play.
Right.
So I started playing, and
Yeah.
he said, let's do that. And that's how that
Right.
part got introduced into Zaria.
Zaria.
And then I
Wow.
remember during the shooting, in Reliance Studio where it was shot. Was it Reliance? Yeah, I think it was Reliance. So when
Okay.
we were shooting for the song, I remember it felt a little bit short, that space. So I said, AR,
Yeah.
why don't you take a little solo yourself before I solo? So you take 8 bars, I take 8 bars. So he said,
Ah.
okay, let's try it. And then we tried it, and then the 8 bars of AR's
Right.
rolling keyboard solo, where he does.
Yeah. Ta 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 ta. Yeah.
Correct. And then my bass solo. So that's how it came about. So there were a lot
Right.
of moments that were special like that. I remember Jagao Mera Des. There's that little unison bit, which is very challenging to play. Prasanna made that line, and AR was just like,
Wow.
hey, why don't you go make a line with Mohini, and then come back, and I'll work on the coda or something, the outro of the song. So Prasanna and I sat on the staircase in Whistling Woods, and he was showing me these lines. He was making them, and he's like, "Huh, how does this sound? Can you play this? Can you play that?" And I was a very very quick learner, and challenging things was my
Wow.
jam. So I picked it up
Yeah.
really quick, and I was like, hey, can we do this note instead of this? So I was also proposing some ideas, and he really liked that. And then we came up with that line. It goes like
Right.
so it was a very kind of konakol based ish line with jazz
Yeah.
phrasing, which AR loved,
True.
and it made its way in Jagao Mera Des. So yeah, some stories for the
Fantastic.
listeners out there.
Beautiful
Yeah,
story.
indeed.
Yeah.
These are incredible stories. I mean, that's just fabulous.
Yeah, so to answer your
And
question, what do we talk about? We hardly talk.
cool.
But when we are on stage and when we are touring, I remember when doing the North American tour, he would sometimes come on stage and he would just be like, "What's going on in your life? What are you doing? What are the other projects you're doing?" So he would always want to know what you're up to, and
Oh, cool.
that yeah, that's really nice. And sometimes he'll pass jokes on stage, and yeah, sometimes he'll just
Wow.
start playing on stage, and he'll take my name and make it fun.
Right,
He's
right.
very musical, and he's a very creative mind, and he's very jolly. And but yeah, there are moments when he's gotten mad because something didn't go his way or some technical issue
Right.
happened, and then he will get mad, because it's his show and he wants it to be perfect. And
True.
so
Fair.
of course
Fair.
me and the band has seen that side also. But it all comes down to one thing: mood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
only fair. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah,
That's
that
fair
was
and good.
in
So,
Australia. Yeah, that was in
oh, wow.
Australia
Okay.
on a private cruise. He treated the band on a private
Oh,
Ooh,
cruise. Yeah, so we were just hanging
so
in the
cool.
cruise, eating some nice food and just talking, hanging.
Cool. Okay, so that brings me to ask you, what's your favorite cuisine?
Oh, so see, I love Indian food. Okay, I love American food also, but it's a little too bland for me. I think it lacks a little bit
Ah,
of spice. So
yeah.
I am always going to be a fan of Indian food, and of course, there are so many subdivisions in Indian food. I love
Yes,
Bengali food. I love South Indian food. I love Konkani food, Maharashtrian food, Punjabi, everything. I mean, it's really hard. It's because so many these things are so different from each other. It's really really hard. But
indeed.
yeah, I am a carnivore. I only eat meat, so that's the
Ah,
thing. I don't eat vegetables
okay,
at all.
okay. Cool, cool,
that's
cool.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
People
Funky,
ask me
before
where
you
do I
pro.
get the energy for playing bass. I say meat. Yeah.
makes sense.
Meet me, you'll know meat. Okay, cool. Before you proceed, Funky, we have to mention this, and a very special thanks to Mr. Stuham for
Oh
connecting
yes,
us
I
with
love him.
Mohini.
Yes, he's
So he was
incredible.
here on the VoiceIt show, and he was the one to connect us with you. So,
Yeah,
Mr.
Stu
Stuham, if
has
you're
been one
watching
of
this,
my Stu Ham has been one of my biggest idols. My dad actually is a bigger fan of Mr. Stu. For me,
really,
Stu is just he's been one of the biggest inspirations, and um, one of the bass players that I have looked up to, from all the
right,
others Stanley, Clarke, Victor Wooten, Jacob Pastorius. So many, the
right,
list just goes on. And in
got it.
today's times, Hadrian Ferrod is on the top of the list, and Anton Davidians, Federico Malaman. There are so many other rock bass
Wow,
players actually that I really have enjoyed listening to in the past few
Billy
months,
Sheehan.
called Ricky Bonazio. Yeah, Billy Sheehan
Oh,
is
nice.
incredible from that era. But
Right,
in the 21st century, There are some new bass players like John Ferreira, Ricky Bonazzo, um,
Oh yeah.
Charles Berthoud. Who else? Yeah, I mean, the list is just, with the social media world, it's just so many that just comes up,
Mm.
Have you
every
listened
day.
to Mohini Day?
Oh yeah, I
Have you?
have. She
Yeah,
talks
yeah,
too
yeah,
much.
yeah.
That's her problem. She shut the f up.
No, that's a good
Not
thing,
at
if
all.
you ask
Not
me.
at all.
Yeah, I don't really
Okay.
like her. Yeah, she talks too much. Yeah.
Nah,
Well,
come on. Okay, fine. You
honestly,
proceed with your question.
well, if you ask me, it's a very good thing that you talk a lot. Because imagine if you came on the show, we ask you something, you say two things, and that's it. Like, it's an
Yeah,
amazing thing.
right.
So, you mentioned that you also learn by observing your husband play. But what are some things that you have learned just by observing the people like A.R. Rahman, Steve Vai, and the others who you played with?
Patience is a big thing that I've learned, I think, over the years playing with AR. He has the biggest patience I've ever seen. Yeah. And he also has a lot of interest in trying out new musicians, which is really great. I think a lot more people should do that and bring in newer musicians, bring in younger musicians, and give them opportunities, which I really love about AR that he does. Very few people do that, so that's one
Hmm.
quality that I really love of him, and I love how down to earth he is and how humble he is. Apart from being an incredible musician, he treats everybody the same. Nobody
Mhm.
is very special for him. Everybody is special.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the
Steve
best
Vai,
thing.
what do you learn from Steve Vai?
Oh, Steve Vai. Man, I've hung out a couple of times with him. Once at his house at a party, and a couple of
Wow.
times backstage before playing with him. Three or
Hmm.
four times. One for Mama Jamathon, and then one in Shillong, one in Pune. Yeah, so that left picture was taken at the Mama Jamathon that he personally invited me for. We were raising funds for, I think, for
Yeah.
disabled people, for kids who
Yeah.
can't hear and stuff, and that was really nice. And the right one is from Shillong or Pune, I can't remember. But I'm wearing a sweatshirt there. It shows it was really cold, so I think it was Shillong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, Steve Vai, he, again, very very down to earth, very very humble, very jolly, very loving, has a great personality, and a creative, a mastermind. I love how open he is, open minded he is, and I love that he loves Indian music, and he always is open to trying out different things. And I love that he called me to be a part of his album Bop, and that's the first song on his Modern Primitive album, and I was very grateful for that opportunity. um, to have played on his album is one of the biggest achievements, and he played on my song Can You Feel Me, so that was another great thing. Yeah, I just love how all these
Yeah.
musicians have showed um, such a open hearted interest, and such a, it
True.
shows how much they love me and how much they respect my talent, how much they respect me, not just as a musician but as a person. They see my hard work, and I think I because every time I work, people see how hardworking I am, and I go sleepless nights without eating sometimes and just working. Sometimes life gets really hard, and I am just very, very dedicated and sincere to my work. And people like them have seen that. I remember being on AR's stage and doing something else completely, making charts for another artist,
Right.
and AR
Right.
coming up on the side and seeing those charts, and then
Mhm.
he's like, oh, whose are those charts? And I'm like, oh, this is a project that I'm doing, so I would switch in and out between his songs rehearsals and something that I was doing, so they see how sincere I am, and they see how I have the experience of fluctuating between different situations. That shows the amount of experience that I've had over the years. And I think they just respect that, and I love that they see me and see my hard work,
True. Oh, yes, indeed. And I would just say India is proud of you. And as an Indian, I mean, I just want to say on behalf of all Indians that you make India proud. So
Thank you. That is
there
very,
you
very nice. I'm very flattered. And yeah, I just keep working. I don't expect anything. I also, like I said, how these people are open minded and open to giving chances to younger musicians. I do the same now. I see a
right.
musician and I want to collaborate with that person. I am at a position right now where I can say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this project. I don't like the music.
Mm-hmm.
But when I like
Right.
somebody's music and the person has no funds, I will do it because I see the potential in that person and I see that this can go somewhere and I would like to support it. And I other hand, I also encourage other young musicians to do the same
Indeed.
and be your
Indeed.
person and pass it on.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, now here's my Steve Vai story. Okay. So because Steve Vai was coming to India, and of course, you played with him both the shows, and I didn't know this. So I was doing engineering, and I was attending my college, and I mean, Steve Vai is God to me. I mean, I just worship the man. And one of my friends came and he said, "You know what? How was it?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You didn't go?" I said, "Where?" He says, "Dude, Steve Vai was in Pune." And I like, "What?" Because Pune is just like 3 hours, 3, 4 hours from my place. And I was like,
Hmm.
you, I mean, I couldn't believe, and my heart just sank. And I came home, sat just in the same place, and I was like, I didn't go to college for 3 days. I was like, dude, what the heck?
Yeah.
So we've had to date, we have Jeremy Colson on the podcast. We've had Billy Sheehan, Stu Ham,
Hmm.
Mr. Alex Dippy. Uh, Now we've had you. Someday I think we might have Steve. I don't know, but
You
slowly
never know.
reaching up there. You never know.
Yeah.
So
He just he was gonna
he's
tour,
amazing.
but now he's not gonna do the tour because he just had a surgery. So I think
Surgery,
he's yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so things keep happening.
Yeah.
Gosh, okay.
So you mentioned Shillong, so I want to ask you about the experience there playing with Steve Vai, and you mentioned that it was really cold. So what did you do in that situation?
So we didn't have any rehearsals. It was a last minute idea. Um, I was already playing with my band at the NH7 Weekender. Was I playing with my band or Ridu's band? I think I was playing with Ridu's band. And
Mm-hmm.
then I had my own band's performance somewhere around in the same time period. Anyway, so I was like in and out between different setups and it was a lot of traveling. But I saw that Steve Vai was performing and we were talking about some project. And while in conversation, the Senate 7 Weekender popped up and I said, yeah, I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
there. And he was excited to know that I was going to be there. And he said, "Why don't you come play on one song?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I asked him, "What song do you want me on?" And he sent me a link to his album, just a song. I forgot the name of the
Mm-hmm.
song, but he said it's going to be a different arrangement. But basically, I'll just call you on stage, and then you do a solo, and then just end the song with the band. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, cool. And so
Okay.
I had an idea of the parts a little bit just towards the end, but no
Uh-huh.
rehearsals and a different arrangement. So it was all like, okay, I don't know, this is gonna be interesting. So I did the performance on the other stage at NH7 Weekender, and then I took a car because the stages in NH7 Weekender are far apart, like very far.
Oh yeah.
So So I did my performance, and then the car took me to Steve Vai's the stage, which was the Bacardi stage, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
And
Bacardi.
yeah, so went there. They were already on stage playing, and Thomas Nordic was there, who is his guitar tech,
Tech.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and Steve Vai's manager was there, so I knew him, and I came backstage, and I was just standing there, and he said, just after this song you will go on. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
standing there. Now you have to understand, like, waiting backstage and listening to this huge sound, it's like, whoa, okay,
Hmm.
Yeah.
butterflies. And that was the first time I had butterflies in my stomach,
Right.
Oh.
because no rehearsals. It's not like I've never done shows without rehearsals. I have. That happens all the time in Carnatic
True.
worlds. But this was a little different, because there are parts, and this is a song, and then he has his part. So I don't want to overstep on those also. But I remember one thing he said. He said he's going to call me, and then I'm going to solo, do my own thing, and then
Yeah.
he's going to cue, and we just jam, and then we'll end the song. I was like, okay, cool. Those
Yeah.
are the pointers I had. So he gives a introduction, and the moment he now nobody saw this coming, right? Nobody had any idea that I was going to be playing with Steve
There.
Vai.
Yeah.
I never was that active on social media in those days. So nobody knew. I would have posted something, but I
True.
wasn't very active in those days. So I never posted also. So nobody had no idea. It was like a surprise to the audience.
Hmm.
Everybody knew, like, like you just said, like Indian musicians know me and people in India
Yeah.
know me. But
Yes.
because I already did a gig there, nobody had any idea that I would play with Steve Vai also, you know? So when he introduced, and everybody was shocked to hear that, and I think Steve said something like, I'm a motherfucker on the bass or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
everybody in the crowd
True.
just went like crazy, and they started yelling my name, and I was like, whoa, whoa, butterflies are gonna come out of my ass, and then I would need to sit down. I need to be calm. So I breathe in, I breathe out, and then I go on stage and I just play, and then he jams with me. Everybody's going crazy. Huge. So you have to understand, I didn't even have sound check, right? So the sound in my cans
True.
are haywire. It's not that great.
Wow.
So all I'm
God.
hearing is a little bit of the track, and
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
that.
Right.
I needed more drums. So I kept telling, I need more drums, I need more drums. But
Right.
show must go on. So, no time
Show
for
must go
that.
on. True.
So I just played, and everybody loved it, and we jammed. We did that little jugalbandi there, and ended the
Yeah.
show with Philip Bino on bass and myself on bass. We played the parts together. He was playing in the lower
True.
octave, I played in the higher octave, and it was a big sound, having two bass players.
True.
Holy
Yeah.
shit. Um, it sounded really good. And the first performance with him, I got a vibe of it, right? So the second one that
Right.
I did, so Pune was first, and second was Shillong, I
Yeah.
think. So the
Oh.
Shillong one, I didn't have any butterflies, because by that time I was more comfortable, and it was like, okay, now I know the drill. So second one was much better than the Pune one.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it
Cool.
just gets
Cool.
better. So that was my experience. But yeah, he gave me a
God.
huge hug after the show, and he said, I can't wait to see you again whenever you're
Oh
in the
yeah.
US, come over. And yeah, we exchange emails, we talk, I share my work with him, and he
True.
helps me.
True.
Sometimes his clients will hit me up for recording sessions, and
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's been great. Yeah, he's
True.
he's a legend.
Yeah.
Indeed, in every sense. And there's this huge spectrum of artists like A.R. Rahman, Steve Vai, Guthrie, Govan, and then suddenly there's the Japanese rock band Bees. Like, how did you end up with Bees?
I got an email from the band's manager, and I thought it was some spam. so so I
Okay,
didn't reply for a week, and then they sent me a second email. I was like, "Oh, okay, it's legit." But I didn't know how big the band was. I mean, how can I know a Japanese band? Like, I'm from
true.
India,
Yeah.
and I'm hearing like jazz bands from America. I've never heard Japanese music before, you know. So they sent a link after I asked, like, can I see some shows? So they sent me a link. They sent me a private link, and I checked it out. I was like, whoa, this is big. They're a big band,
Right.
and I looked them up. They are the biggest band in Japan. I was like, wow, this is great. And they wanted me to audition, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a first time. Like I had never auditioned before that. So, but I know
True.
why they wanted that. They wanted to see me. They told me specifically, like, it's not like we don't know you can play. We know you can play, but we want to see the performance aspect.
Yeah.
So I was
Mm.
like, okay, cool. Yeah, like what, I don't know, 80,000, 90,000 people.
Okay.
And every show was
True.
sold out. We did like 40 shows or something in the
Oh,
span
wow.
of 6 months. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I love Japanese food also. Speaking of Japan, okay, coming back to that, it just reminded me of miso soup and the sushi and the Japanese barbecue and all that.
Suddenly mouth
And
waters. Like
yeah,
okay.
suddenly mouth waters. Yeah, but so I told they wanted three audition clips of three different songs. I was like, man,
Okay.
I'm too busy. I don't know if I can do three. I can do two. So I gave them two
Uh huh.
audition clips. I did them, and I sent it to them, and they said, you're in. I didn't think I was going to be in.
Hmm.
I was just doing it
Okay.
because it was fun for me to audition for the very first time.
Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't know how it works. So I ended up asking, who are the other musicians auditioning? So she's like, the manager was a woman. She's like, oh, we're not allowed to say
Yeah.
that. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. I didn't know it
Oh.
was not allowed to say that. That's how it works. You
Gosh.
don't say who else is auditioning. Anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
it was for a new band that they wanted. It was called, they had planned to name it a whole lot of new love. So they wanted to record music for this new band, an album that they wanted. So
Oh yeah.
2020 or 2019, I think
Mm-hmm.
2020, around 2020,
Mm-hmm.
um, when NAM was happening, I went to Beverly Hills, and I recorded for 7 songs for this band. They were in Los Angeles at NAM. So
Wow.
after the NAM performances, I went there and I recorded. Brian Tichy was on drums, who is the drummer for Guns N' Roses and Whitesnake, and
Oh yeah.
list goes on. And then Sam Pomanti on keys,
Mm-hmm.
who also sings in the band. And then Whitey was the arranger slash composer of the band, director of the band. And then Tak and
Mm-hmm.
Koshi are obviously the founders of the band. They are the stars. And yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a
Right.
pretty cute picture. That was actually during the recording session, that picture.
Oh,
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
Cool.
that was in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, they're very, very organized people. Japanese are known to be very, very
Right.
organized and very on
Oh yeah.
time and very scripted. Every night has to be the same. No room for,
Yeah.
uncertainty. No room for something is going to be different. Every night has to be
Yeah.
the same. Every show has to be great. Not bad, not
Yeah.
greatest, great. Every show has to
mhm.
be bam. So
Right.
one thing different about this show was that the new experience that I never had before that collaboration with Bees was that I didn't know that I have to memorize 40 songs. So I was reading. So
Gosh. Yeah.
yeah,
Notation.
so I was reading all the charts during the rehearsals. We had 2 weeks of rehearsals prior to the tour starting. And on the
Yeah.
second last day of the rehearsal, the manager comes up to me and she says, how long are you going to use the charts for? I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, you can't use the charts, right, on stage. I was like, what are you saying? And she's like, yeah, you have to memorize this. I'm like, what?
What?
So, yeah. So I was like, okay, this is new information. Okay, let me use the charts right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the room. I'm going to stay up the night. I'm going to memorize them and come back tomorrow because tomorrow is the last day of the rehearsal. She said, yeah, I think,
God.
but you have to imagine how memorizing 40 songs in one night. It's
And
unheard
pulled
of.
an
I
all-nighter.
couldn't I couldn't
My
believe
God.
myself. I could not believe myself that I did that. I had nightmares. So after I was learning the songs, I was falling asleep and learning the songs, falling asleep, learning the
Yeah, oh my
songs,
god.
you know, and then
Dedication,
probably got
boss.
probably got like 1 hour of sleep after, just before like getting out of the hotel, going to the rehearsal. In that 1 hour of sleep, you have no idea what are the things I saw. I saw my family's heads getting chopped off. I saw I was dead. There were like,
Oh,
yeah, all this stuff. Like the stress level and the pressure was just mind blowing. Like I
my
people
God.
were getting killed in my dreams and stuff.
Oh my god.
And now imagine
Oh,
having a
man.
rehearsal after that, after having those
Yeah.
nightmares. So that was
Oh, yeah.
very, very, it was
Oh, so you have
terrifying
to
and
go and
pathetic.
play after this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I didn't
My
speak to nobody.
God.
Everybody was in shock. Everybody was like, "Why is she so silent today?" I did good. I played the songs. I think some of the songs I was like, my bass tech. I told him, I was like, if I forget something, I'll just look at you, bring the chart for a second, and then take it back. So I'd play.
Right.
Now we're performing also. You have to remember, like, we are not just playing the song. We are
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
performing in the rehearsal room, just like we would
Right.
perform on stage.
On stage. Yeah.
So I'm like, bring the chart, please. He's bringing it. I'm like, okay, good, go. And then I'm like performing. And then we hit the stage, we hit the
Gosh.
tour, and then everything was fine.
Man.
Everything went well, and then
The
after
effort.
like 5 or 6 shows, I got more comfortable. Everything was in there. No more charts, no more needing of charts, and no more like that nervous energy. No more thinking was involved. Like, oh, what comes next? Oh shit, I don't know what's coming up. Sometimes I would mix up other songs, like part with another song, because you have to understand. Like,
Right.
I don't even understand the language, so it's harder.
Yeah.
And then I started
True.
singing in the band. So after 5, 6 shows,
Indeed.
I got so comfortable. I was like, this is fun actually.
Ah.
I could sing those parts, and the singer was like, he heard me. I was just like kind of miming and just like kind of humming, and when he was singing, I was just like, "Ba, ba, ba, ataki show." I don't know what it means, but I'm just like saying shit. I don't know. And then he saw and he was like, "Why don't you sing also?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yes, you should sing." I was like, "Cool." So then I started singing. There was this little screen. They said, for this
Uh-huh.
gig you can read, but from the next gig you memorize the lyrics also.
Memorize. Gosh.
Yeah, so I still remember. I was like, "So na koto kiki akita, uh, choto zare nagari kosho." I think I fucked that up, but
Wow.
yeah, but kind of there. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
But it was really fun. Like, it
Gosh.
was challenging, and there were parts which were like kind of crazy, but after it was comfortable, it was the best time of my life. I would kill to go back to Japan again and do the same thing over again.
True. But hats off to your dedication and efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh. Salute. Salute.
Thank you, thank you.
I mean, we are almost hitting the 1 hour mark. If you
Great,
have to
because
go,
I'm getting
we
hungry.
yeah. So it's 11:30 p.m. almost in India.
Yes,
So
that's right.
we will end this interview on this note. But we do have questions. So if you may, we'd request you if you'd wanna come back again sometime in the future. You're welcome on the Voice of Show again. So,
Oh, that's sweet.
uh,
Sure.
yeah. So yeah, just one last question for our fans, your fans that are watching or listening. What advice would you like to give them?
Be yourself, be independent, don't depend on anyone, and don't give or allow someone to make yourself feel a certain way. Always remember that destiny and power is in your hand, and believe in your intuition, and don't give another person the power to rule your mind, because that's a big thing. And
Yeah.
be dedicated, be whatever you want to be in life, whatever you want to do in life, be dedicated and completely devote yourself to that, and be organized and consistent is the key to success. So
Wow.
that's that.
There you go.
Amazing
Wise words.
advice. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And before you leave, for our viewers and listeners, if you want to connect with Mohini, these are her socials above on
Yeah,
Instagram.
I don't use Twitter, so Facebook and Instagram is the best. Yeah.
Cool. So you can connect with her, and of course all these links are in the description of this video, so you can find the other links like YouTube and Spotify as well. So thank you everybody
Awesome.
for tuning in, and special thanks to Mohini. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and we wish you all the best for your projects, ongoing projects, and future projects as
Thank
well.
you.
And we'd love to
Thank
see
you.
you again. And you bring so much pride to the nation, and you bring so much joy with your music in our lives. So thank you,
Thank
and we are
you.
proud of you. Keep doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Have a beautiful rest of the day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
You
so much.
too.
Okay. See you all. Peace to you all, and ciao for now. Yeah.